2023. The Senate is alive to what the Constitution requires, and as a result, we have planned that we shall present our reports to the House by the 27th of March, which would be on Thursday, for debate and for consideration, and for the House to take appropriate action. Appropriate action has not been defined in the Constitution, it has not been defined in the PFM, but if you go to the Public Audit Act, you might get some guidelines on what appropriate action should look like. There will be an implementation matrix that entities would be required to come up with, and entities will be required to report back to the House on measures that they've taken to close the issues that remain outstanding in the report of the Auditor General. So I believe that that will, I don't know whether it's a reason why you came with the attorney to your right. I'm not sure whether he has got some missiles for us today, but I'm just saying that so that if you had a brief to raise any objections, we guide him accordingly. So we are still within the constitutional timelines, not just for Kisii, but for the other counties. For that reason, we'll be extremely efficient today because we must ensure that we have enough time for us to prepare the report and table by the 27th of March. The Auditor General has assessed your responses, and as per your responses, if you are to start with a report on the county executive, the Auditor General had raised 64 issues, or there were 64 paragraphs. Probably one of the longest reports I've seen. I don't know why for 8 billion shillings you should have 64 issues flagged. So we'll also be asking a few questions at some point regarding your internal controls, your internal audit, your audit committees, because if those were functional, there is no reason why you should have 64 issues escalated to the Senate. It is symptomatic of a breakdown of internal controls. Out of the 64, the auditor has advised us that they are satisfied with the responses on 8 issues. On 4, they are partially addressed, and the 4, I think, generally relate to policy issues. You know, those usual things about 1/3 salary, ethnic composition, things that can be achieved progressively. But 52 are not addressed. 52 out of 64. We have discussed with the Auditor General and we have asked ourselves, if from the evidence tendered and from the ground visits by the Auditor General, the auditor has told us that 52 are still unaddressed. Those of us who come from the lake, we have a saying that if Omena comes from the lake and tells you that tilapia is sick, you better believe Omena, because they live together in the lake. So if the auditor tells us that 52 issues are unaddressed, we better believe them, because they live with you on the ground, even though they sit in Homa Bay. But remember, all that is South Nyanza. So we will perhaps go through the issues that have been addressed and adopt them. The issues that are not resolved, we probably could sample a few of them, but the job of this committee is not to carry out audit. That job is given constitutionally to the Office of the Auditor General. Our job would be, if the auditor comes and says, since our audit we believe that the entity has taken certain action, our job would be to adopt that and report to the House that at least 8 issues have been satisfactorily resolved. So what happens to the 52? The 52 must then be dealt with in accordance with the Public Audit Act, which requires that upon adoption of the report of the Senate, that accounting officers will be notified of the resolution of the House and that they will prepare a report on implementation. And then this committee will be required to follow up on closure of some of those issues. And it is in follow-up that we can then make recommendations on whether the EACC should take up some issues or on whether administrative action or disciplinary action should be taken, perhaps on professionals who have violated the law. I think that's a framework that we'll be adopting to enable us finish this session in good time and to enable us take a report to the House in good time. That will apply to the report of the executive, the report on the receiver of revenue, and the report on the county revenue fund. But generally, a lot of issues still remain unresolved. And so before we get into the specific issues, Governor, do you have an audit committee as a county?
Chairman, yes, we had an audit committee whose time elapsed, I think, late last year. And we have made an advert. People have done the applications. And Chair, as we're talking, we are sure that in a couple of days we'll be having it formally in office. Therefore, it has been there. So it's there, but its time came to an end towards September, October there. Therefore, probably we'll be having it in place after the interviews have been conducted, as it were.
But that means that during the audit, during the presentation of financial statements, they were in office, because I see your statements are signed 30th of September.
But by then, Chair, I think their term had come to an end. Therefore, they weren't all there in by the time the audit was being carried out.
Do you have an internal audit function?
We do.
You have an internal auditor?
Yes.
And you know that an internal auditor is supposed to, the internal audit plan is supposed to be approved by the audit committee. So if you don't have an audit committee, then the internal auditor is basically useless. It means that even internal controls then cannot be effective. Wezi, is that the right interpretation?
Chair, you have put it very well. In an event that there are no audit committees in place, the functionality of the internal audit may not have value in terms of that processes. And again, you look in terms of even the internal audit compositions, whether they really do the work plans, in terms of even who, their report goes to where, those really some of the issues which may pose in terms of the risk internal controls. But if internal audit is really vibrant and can work, then there will be a value addition in terms of even the controls.
Governor, when is the last time you came across an internal audit report of the entity? Right.
Chair, last year, I think before their time came to an end, I had a discussion with the whole team, the board, before it came to an end. Therefore, rightly the way the auditors just put it is that including even the director for audit is a member of that committee. But as I've said, an advert had been put. People have been invited for purpose of recruitment, and we are in the process, Mr. Chairman.
Of course, I don't expect the governor to be the one to put out the adverts. There must be someone you have employed in your organization. You are paying a salary to know that the term of the audit committee is coming to an end. Let's start early planning. Who is that person?
Chair, that's the CEC Finance, who's supposed to know at what time we are supposed to be having this team in place.
Is that the man on your left?
Yes.
We go to the same church. You remember Christ was crucified between two thieves, and one was very unrepentant. Could it be the CEC Finance? CEC, why? I don't expect that the governor would have all these details that this committee is coming to a close. Why are you sleeping on the job? Because that's why we have 64 things here, mundane issues that should not come to the Senate.
Thank you, Chair. I did advise the Public Service Board to proceed and recruit the same. My role is purely advisory to the other end that this has come to an end. I have had a good approval from my Excellency Governor, and Public Service Board are carrying out on that exercise. Thank you, sir.
Do you have a Public Service Board that is fully constituted?
Chair, yes, though the chairman was moved from his position, is now the deputy governor. Therefore, again, in the process, we are recruiting the chairperson and the secretary was not there before. But the other team, of course, in the absence of the chairman, there is a vice chair and a team that were running the affairs of the county.
Now, Governor, this is rather curious because you are one of those governors who has been very articulate on issues of HR and the size of your wage bill and the need to rationalize it. We have even had a meeting with you. I think you have dramatized the impact of excessive wage bill on the finances of Kisii. You don't have a county public service board that is effective, properly constituted, because without a chair and a secretary, you have no board. Without an audit committee, you have no internal controls, internal audit. Remember the last time we also told you, instead of these task forces, you can use your internal audit and internal functions. I think that was the direction of the court, that the first port of call is internal audit, then the Auditor General. So I'm a bit concerned that institutions of governance are not working in Kisii County. Members, is that my feeling, or that you also get that feeling? Senator Wambua.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm also a bit worried. I know my friend, Senator Governor Simba. In the absence of an audit committee, then how would you ensure that all the departments, all the units in your government are doing what they are supposed to do? Because as the CEO of the county, it will be very difficult, actually impossible, for you to have your hands on all the financial operations of your county. But then, more importantly, is a question of best practice. Governor, because some of us are also nursing some ambitions, I would want to learn from those of you who have gone before us, what would be the best practice when it comes to the replacement of committees as important as audit committees? Do you wait until their term comes to an end, then you begin the process of replacement, or do you begin the process in good time so that on the day that they are exiting, then the other team gets in? Because then it will mean that there are functions that will suffer greatly if you have to begin the advertisement once the previous team has left office. Chair, I rest my case.
Yeah, Governor, could you give us some sense of comfort on that?
Chair, in the absence of the committee, I want to just point out that indeed the Department of Audit has been functioning, despite the fact that the committee itself is not there. Therefore, the internal mechanism in terms of control, you can be sure that those people that are carrying out their duties. It's a big team, other than now the committee itself being in for guidance purposes. But for the purpose of audit issues, for sure, the department is there, headed by a director himself, who in the composition of the committee is in the committee, as it were. The only thing is that, yes, I know we are late on this. I hope that my team could have put it in place, but shortly we'll be having a fully operationalized committee on audit.
Is the director of audit a part of the delegation today? Are they here?
No, he didn't come.
I think there's value in them being here. You have noticed that in the past we would fire the governor on everything. But in the end, officers get away with murder because they know it's a governor who's going to take the oath and defend themselves. So we are taking the battle to the doorstep of every single officer in the county who has a responsibility. So when you're coming again, the head of audit and even the chair of the audit committee, it is important that they are here because they add value to this process. Senator Nyonka.
Thank you, Chair. I am looking at the issue of what you've raised, and if you look at out of the
that we have some smooth flow. So when did you begin the process of recruitment of the new committee? Should be straightforward. I mean, if the guy is left office in September, you started recruitment either the same month or 2 months later.
I mean, is it a statement of fact that you have started recruitment, or you're still planning?
Mr. Chair, there's an advert, I think, they briefed me last week, not last week, but one, on the progress, on the recruitment of the team, the committee, as it were. Last week, but
this month.
They briefed me on the process because already the advert had expired. They had to give 21 days. All that process, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay, Senator Nyonka, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to mention that when you look at the report, Chair, the Governor, if you look at the lack of the audit committee, out of the 52 issues that are outstanding, nearly half are actually issues which the audit committee would have handled. So the question I would want to ask is, what is your general thinking in terms of every single item, whether it is procurement, whether it is all the issues which have been raised, it still falls back onto the audit committee, internal auditors and your teams. What is it that has made it impossible for these issues to have been resolved?
Donna?
Chair, thank you. Rightly the way you put it, it's because of lack of that committee in place. It should have actually handled these issues early enough before the Audit General came in to audit the books as they were. Therefore, the lack of that committee, it's good that you've worked on your maths. It's a half of that could have been sorted out. We could not be having all those items with ourselves here.
I'm told we have members of the County Assembly present. Were the members of the County Assembly? Could they be allowed to go on record? Please say your name, the ward you represent, and the committee that you're a member of. Make sure it's on.
Yes, Chair, my name is Wycliffe Siecha. I'm the member of County Assembly representing the people of Ichuni Ward in Kisii County, and I'm also the Chair, Implementation Committee.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Chair. My name is Peter Utachi, member of County Assembly, Munyerera Ward. I'm also the Chair, Budget and Appropriation Committee. Thank you, Chair. So
we have Chair Budget, we have Chair Implementation, but we don't have Chair Public Accounts Committee. So that we are clear, have you come as part of the Governor's delegation?
No, we are not part of his delegation, Chair.
You've come as members of the County Assembly?
Yes, yes.
Is any of you also a member of the Public Accounts Committee?
No.
Because I've talked of failure of institutions of governance in Kisii County, Audit Committee, County Public Service Board, County Assembly. As the County Assembly invited the executive to go through this report, knowing that we've got a concurrent mandate as per Article 2293 to consider these reports within 3 months. Governor, I know the chair of Public Accounts would have answered that, but if there was an invitation, you would know. Have you been invited by the County Assembly?
I don't think they have, Chair, because when they do their report again, they take it to the Assembly to pack, as it were. And I remember, I think last year there was that report with pack of the County Assembly. It's only that this year, I don't know, because of again of the delays that we have, they must have not gotten it.
So that, I think it confirms that the institutions that are mandated to provide accountability, oversight and governance must be properly established, they must be strengthened. And the chairman of implementation, I do not know how How do you interact with these reports of the Auditor General? At what point do you come in?
Chair, the reports are handled by the committee, that is the PAC committee at the Assembly. I only come to interact.
So if they don't handle them, you don't get seized of them?
Until the reports are taken in the Assembly, passed, that's when I interact with them, because mine is to implement the resolutions of the Assembly.
And from the look of things, the 3 months will end this week?
Yes.
And if there's been no invitation to the executive, it means that there'll be no report of the county assembly. I think this message must go out to all county assemblies. I know last week members of county assembly were in Nairobi for the legislative summit. I hope that there were some conversations. I was meant to come there to talk about issues of accountability, but on the first day the members were quite wild, so they didn't allow people to speak. If the county assembly was to do what it's required to do, honorable members, if you look at the report of the Auditor General, there's paragraph 5.12, just to demonstrate 5.14, project implementation status, Department of Education. Now, the Auditor General has done a good job. And Auditor, this is a level of detail we need. Because when you're this detailed, you are provided about 5 ECD classrooms that had problems. That's on page, if you look at the detailed report of the Auditor General, it's page 15. You got it. So there are about 5 projects there. Otendo Primary in Moticho Ward, ECD Pit Latrine in Bosansa Primary, ECD classroom at Makorogoinwa Primary, ECD at Otamba and Masongo, ECD at Sengera and Bendera. How can the Senate review and resolve these matters sitting in Nairobi without being in Kisii? The institution that would add value to this conversation and this consideration is the county assembly, because all these projects are in your wards. And if the auditor has flagged issues of implementation, the member of county assembly is in a better position to take a view and agree or disagree with the report of the Auditor General. And so I think we also need to encourage the county assemblies to do what the Constitution requires them to do, because leaving it to the Senate then we'll be engaged in a very academic exercise. Even if the governor tells me that Sengera and